All right, we get the Krueg Show going on a Thursday, and we talk a little 49er football in advance of the NFC divisional game at Levi Stadium coming up Sunday. 49ers and Cowboys, the playoffs in the NFL. It's awesome this time of year because somebody's going home and somebody's moving on, and you just can't create that kind of drama. And with us to break it all down, the man, the myth himself, Grant Cohn from the Cohn Zone. Hey, Grant, what's up, man? Long time no see, huh?
We just booked it home from Santa Clara, and if you're not from the East Bay, it's not easy to do at 5:30 in the afternoon on 880. It's kind of like the 405 in LA, but we made it.
Yeah, we made it. And we did get to hear Brock Purdy speak today. What was your takeaway from Purdy?
My takeaway from Purdy, at least what he was talking about, I asked him about scrambling against the Dallas Cowboys defense, and it seemed like that was something he had thought about. He's like, look, everyone knows I scramble. He even said it like, people are starting to watch my tape. People know that I scramble to my left. I got to be really cognizant of that, which he gives great answers. Like the best answers ever. He never gets defensive. He understands where we're coming from, and he tries to, answer your question thoughtfully to the best of his ability. So he's like, yeah, I totally understand what you're talking about. I'm probably not going to be scrambling a lot towards Michael Parsons in this game, essentially. So I don't know. That was the best. I like that. What'd you think? You were there.
Yeah, I mean, I sat there and I'm thinking to myself, the 49ers have lucked out so incredibly with this draft choice. I mean,
the answer to your question was great. His answer to your question was great. You asked him, like, how are you taking all this, right? And he was like, well, I'm a man of faith, and, this really doesn't define me. And, of course, I take it seriously. But I thought that was very interesting. He's so mature. 23?
Well, he's definitely, that there's a saying, I've never used it, but I've heard a lot of people say, oh, Bob, such and such is an old soul.
Yeah, right.
And that's like, this guy is kind of like that. He is, Arizona by way of Iowa State. He's like, you can tell he's got this like insanely competitive streak and that he gives no quarter, but he's also like, total good guy, normal guy, family guy, just easy, very easy to relate to. I'll say this. One of the things I would like to ask him is a little bit more peeling the onion than that setting requires. But one of the things I'd love to ask him is it been more challenging doing the football side of things? And he's picking up Kyle's very complex offense better than virtually anybody ever did, way faster than Matt Ryan did, way faster than Jimmy did.
That's true.
Is that the biggest challenge, or is the biggest challenge, kind of asserting leadership in a room where Trey Lance is still there, Jimmy's still there, you're a 7th round pick, walking in, some of these guys are, Brock's 23. How old's Trent Williams? 35? So it's like, I just wonder, what is the more challenging thing? Is it the X's and O's, or like figuring out how to lead this room of football players who some of these guys really love Jimmy still? It's clear.
Yeah, and I know it all sounds very difficult, but just from my perspective as an outsider, but someone in the room, it doesn't look like he's been challenged by anything so far. It looks like everything's come extremely easy to him, and I'm sure he wouldn't say that because he's not a cocky guy, and that's not it. But really, it feels like part of what makes the story so great is that everything has been extremely easy for him so far.
Yeah, he says all
being a leader, playing quarterback, everything.
Yeah, you asked him about skating out the back door, which we saw him do like 3 or 4 times in a row. And obviously that's not what you want to do. You want to go upfield and try to get yardage, but he gave you a good answer as well.
Greasy said that Greasy told him go north and south. True. Yeah.
Okay. But more, how about more north than south?
How about more? Exactly. Right. That's a good point.
But I just kept thinking to myself, they lucked out. They drafted Trey Lance. Trey Lance may or may not be a good quarterback, but he's not a NFL starting, ready to roll quarterback today. Okay, maybe due to the injury, but he still needs some development probably, and some coaching, and some reps. Right? I think that's fair. Brock Purdy is not just a young quarterback who's playing well. He's ready to play. He's got a full resume of collegiate starts, and it's amazing where he is in his development. I mean, I'm shocked. I thought what he's doing, Grant, was impossible. I didn't think any rookie quarterback could come in and master
Yeah.
Shanahan's system with all the check downs and shifts and motions and operate it this easily. He makes it look easy right now.
Yeah, he's the man for the moment. I mean, Trey got hurt. Jimmy got hurt. They needed this savior, and he's been that. And, like, we don't know what Brock Purdy's future is. We don't know that he's going to be a Hall of Famer. The league could catch up to him. We have no idea what he's going to look like in 3 years. But he's the perfect quarterback for them right now. And he gives them the best chance to win the Super Bowl. It's a great story. But I still think, like, if they don't trade Trey Lance, we don't know how next year is going to go. Next year could be a down season for Brock Purdy. He could throw a lot of interceptions. He could get hurt. Trey Lance could come in. He could do great. The future is unknown. I mean, it's so intriguing what's going to happen at the quarterback position here. But right now, Brock is so perfect for this team.
Yeah.
And he could be for a long time.
Before we talk a little bit more specific about the Niners, I got to get your thoughts on something I brought up today when I was filling in on 95.7 The Game. That is, look at the teams that are left, Grant, and look at the quarterbacks. Jaguars, Chiefs, you got Trevor Lawrence and Mahomes. You got Daniel Jones and Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, and then Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy. Outside of I mean, I love the way Lawrence moves. I'd say outside of maybe Joe Burrow, every single other quarterback has mobility as a trait that's in their favor. And that to me seems like...
And even Joe Burrow moves pretty well. Like, he moves a whole lot better than Jimmy does.
Right.
Yeah.
And better than almost all of the pocket quarterbacks of yesteryear move. I mean, I love Aaron Rodgers, but he's not moving around like that. And Cousins doesn't move that great.
Right.
But Brady's 46.
Jimmy.
I'm just kind of wondering if, like, now athletes are so fast. The linebackers are all 4.5 now in the league that it's like, can you have a quarterback who can't move and win?
I don't think you can anymore. I don't think you can. Even Tom Brady struggled this year to a degree. And, I mean, he's the greatest. Peyton Manning. If Peyton Manning were 28, he could probably do it. But those are the only ones. Because I feel like what happens is every year the defensive linemen become more athletic, faster, more explosive, and offensive linemen kind of stay the same. So the pocket closes quicker. If you can't move at all, I don't see how you stay healthy in this league unless you just throw an endless string of checkdowns, which isn't going to get you to the Pro Bowl or the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. I mean, Daniel Jones moves great. And if there's one thing about, like, listen to John Lynch this week, if there's one thing that he sounded really legit on, like, they liked Brock Purdy and the scouts liked Brock Purdy and they had high hopes for Brock Purdy, but they didn't see this level of mover, this level of athlete. And it's amazing. I think in some ways I feel like they lucked into it. I'll give credit. I'll give John Lynch credit. You know how many guys at this point would be like, well, it was all my idea,
That's so not his style.
He's going out of his way to shout out the road scout Slowick, to describe the situation, how he banged the table for Purdy, to kind of share that obvious pat on the back. And I think there's a lot of lesser men would have taken that applause for themselves.
Let me say something about Purdy real quick. He was Mr. Irrelevant. He was the last pick. I didn't know much about him before they drafted him. I never really took him seriously, as everyone knows here. I didn't really do my homework on him. I'm looking at him. I am now. I'm looking at him now. There were signs that there's some athleticism here. I mean, he rushed in college for 1,100 yards and 19 touchdowns. You can't do that if you're not an athlete. So he must have been doing this for a while. I'm just saying, it's there. Honestly, if you look at his numbers from college and put them up against Russell Wilson's numbers from college, they're so freaking similar. The similarities between him and Russell Wilson are crazy, except that Purdy's like maybe 2 inches taller, and Russell Wilson probably has a stronger arm. That's about it. They're so freaking similar.
I went through a little exercise after minicamp where I basically put him on paper and Garoppolo on paper, and I went through college record, completion percentage in college, touchdowns to interception ratio in college, height, weight, speed, all of the combine workouts. And it was like 50-50. Some of it was in Purdy's favor, some of it was in Jimmy's favor. And then But then Purdy's 6 feet and change, where Garoppolo's 6'2" and change. And it's amazing what that does to the scouting.
I know, right?
I mean,
but I think
old school thinking.
Another thing that I think people didn't realize, he ran like a 4.84 or something, which is not anything special. Right. But who cares how fast he can run 40 yards? He might run 40 yards once in a season. What I want to know is what's his short area burst. He's got it. Right. Wow, does he have it? And that was measured. I mean, the 10-yard split, it was there. So it was right in front of people's eyes. And even no one really saw it. And I think also, like, all of his experience, people looked at it as a negative somehow. And now you go back and you're like, oh, shit, it's an asset. It's rare. If only Trey could get these reps. You know what I'm saying? So there was a lot of good things about him that people just flat out didn't value. And I think they will looking forward. Like, okay, so what did Brock have going? Let's get the next Brock. Well, I don't know if you're going to find a 4-year starter who's a true freshman, comes out at 22, and is that kind of, like, athlete that no one knows about. Good luck finding that.
Yeah. I mean, it's good news for the Stetson Bennett's and the Jake Hayners of the world. But, yeah, I mean...
Those guys aren't Brock Purdy, though. Like Brock Purdy is what everyone wanted Zach Wilson to be. Zach Wilson got famous. I know a lot of people liked him, but he got famous off that pro day where he ran that against no one, spinning left, throwing down the field. Brock Purdy does that in actual NFL games for touchdowns. And Zach Wilson did it on air one time, and everyone got really excited because of the playmaker they thought he might be. Well, Brock Purdy is that playmaker.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. He can make plays from the pocket, but he can make plays off schedule. Pete Carroll compared him to Fran Tarkenton.
Yeah!
I'll say who the guy who he reminds me the most of is Russell Wilson.
That's what I'm saying.
And he's big. He's obviously taller than Russell Wilson. Russell, I think, is a little bit better athlete. Both big hands. Both guys who can really run, and both have that Fran Tarkenton kind of
they could definitely do that.
And you just never get a hit on the guy. And then you're looking up in the third quarter, and your D linemen are frustrated because it's like, damn, man, we haven't been able to hit this guy.
And they were pro ready. Russell Wilson went deep in the playoffs, the divisional round as a rookie because he was a 4-year starter in college. What else? There's so much more. No. The price point. The price point, he was cheap. And so the fact that he could do that, Russell Wilson, on that team, when they were healthy and he was on that rookie deal, they were damn near unbeatable for like 3 years, which is quite hard to accomplish in a salary cap sport. So Brock Purdy might have that effect on the Niners too. They're gonna have a juggernaut roster the next 3 years because they're not spending on quarterback and getting elite quarterback play. Who does that? Them and Philly. I know. Yeah, and then Philly's going to give that guy an extension this year, so what are you going to do?
Brock Purdy has escapability, and he can make 280-pound guys, 260-pound guys look really, really bad, stop and start. Here's the question. This is kind of – I hate what you may say to this. Is Micah Parsons the perfect solution to Brock Purdy? Because he's smaller than most rushers. He's faster than most rushers. He's not really a defensive end. He's a linebacker that they're playing at defensive end because he's just a badass. And it's like, is his quickness and speed and unbelievable instincts, is he the guy who snuffs out Brock Purdy's escapability on Sunday?
I mean, probably. If anyone could do it, it'd be the most athletic edge rusher in the league. No offense to Nick Bosa, but Micah Parsons is probably a more fluid athlete. Bosa's probably stronger, better. I don't know. Anyway, Purdy's got to be really careful in this game because this is a game where he could get hurt. He runs around a lot. This is, one of the fastest pass rushers in the league. He's got to be really careful. But again, like if he just stays in the pocket, that could be recipe for disaster too. So this is a very interesting matchup for him. It's you could argue it's the best pass rush in the league. It led the league in pressures. So the Niners can control the game running the ball, but if Dallas finds a way to take away the run game and the quick passes and forces him to drop back and throw down the field, whoa. Now all of a sudden Mike McGlinchey has to block someone. Spencer Burford has to block someone. And they're going to be really good players. So I don't know. This is going to be an interesting one. It's going to be a very interesting matchup for the scrambler, Fran Tarkenton Jr., against a very fast defensive line. I don't know. He might just be at his best doing a Jimmy Garoppolo impression and just getting the ball and getting it out of his hands immediately. I don't know if he wants to make plays while Parsons out there. You know what I'm saying?
Will it be a run heavy scheme or will it be a balanced game plan? Shanahan has gone to the balance, but Grant, I think in this game, Dallas is enough offensively. I think I would like to go to kind of a, definitely 55-45 run pass, but I'm thinking more like 65-35 run pass. I'd like to see a heavy dose of the run and shorten the game, ball control, a little bit more complementary football to protect the Niners secondary. That would be my approach.
Do you really want to make it exactly like? Do you really want to make it a shootout when your defense hasn't been playing great against the pass the last month, and they have that pass rush with some players in the secondary who intercept a lot of passes? Like, you don't have to make it a shootout. You can run the ball. They can't stop the run. And that's been the Niners' formula for success for a long time before Purdy got here. And I know the Niners are beating people because they're kind of like going against tendency. Everyone's expecting the Niners to establish the run. They come out passing, get an early lead. It works. But this week, they might want to be careful and conservative and run the ball to protect Brock, to protect their defense, to your point. Like, this is a good offense that they're facing. A good offense that scores lots of points. So protect your defense that's reeling right now.
Yeah, let's hit a couple super chats. Jordan Matthews, $1.99. Just to let everyone know, Grant's married.
Yeah, it's an inside joke from a show last night. It got weird, but I had to mention about 800 times that I'm married.
There you go. G-Code Travels Vlog POV, which just rolls off the tongue. Would you compare Banks to Bay Area's own Kevin Gogan? Sacred Heart High School, Kevin Gogan. I remember my son play high school basketball. Gogan was 6'8". Oof. And a brawler. Banks is huge. And I think Banks is a better athlete than Gogan for sure.
Banks kind of reminds me of Upati, a little bit smaller, a little bit better athlete, I would have to say. He's huge. Yeah. Quite tall.
Banks is a big guy, and hopefully his knee is better. Jordan Matthews, CMC going off, Pro Bowl snub, Bayless adding fire.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, I don't know if you saw this or if you looked at it. Did you see the running back snap count from the Seahawks game?
No.
CMC 40 snaps, Elijah Mitchell 14 snaps. What do you think that ratio should look like and will look like in this game?
Well, Mitchell didn't look that great last game. I think we had like 2 yards on or 9 yards on 2. I don't know. He didn't have a lot of yards, so I don't see what the use of using him is if he's rusty. And it seems like this is such a Christian McCaffrey game. You don't want to hold the ball a long time in the pocket. You don't have the quarterback to really drive it down, outside the numbers against really good corners. Throw it to McCaffrey. These linebackers can't cover him. Hand it to McCaffrey. They've done that a lot. I feel like this is going to be one of the games where he gets like 25, 30 touches, for better or worse. But I feel like he's getting a hell of a workload in this game. What do you think?
Yeah, they trust him. I mean, listening to Lynch talk about him, it's like you'd almost think like they don't give him the ball enough.
Well, he went to Stanford.
Yeah, I mean, he loves him, and I don't know if it's about justifying.
Have you noticed that Stanford men really stick together? My dad went to Stanford too, and there is a brotherhood there. They love each other. Yes.
Oh, it's the perfect football player. No, but I mean, in a lot of ways, McCaffrey. They didn't need McCaffrey. In fact, I asked Cam Inman, like the day I interviewed him the day before the trade deadline. I'm like, what do you think the Niners are going to do at the trade deadline? Do you think they'll go for Christian McCaffrey? And he said they don't need McCaffrey. And they didn't. McCaffrey.
That's what I thought.
I think most people thought they didn't need McCaffrey.
I thought, hey, man, they need a better quarterback. Can they get a quarterback at the trade deadline? And they did. Exactly. He was on their roster. Yeah. Right. And they got McCaffrey too. Amazing. Yeah.
Well, and that's my next question. We debated on the radio, but they went and they got McCaffrey, and he has upgraded. They have not lost a game. Now, let me ask you this.
Oh yeah.
Who is more of the reason? Let's say the Niners are on this 11-game win streak.
The quarterback. Now I know Purdy hasn't been there for the whole time, but it's always the quarterback. And I know that Christian McCaffrey has been great, but he's a running back. And as great as he is, and Debo and Kittle and Ayuk, there was a game against New Orleans. They were all in the field together and scored 13. Why? The quarterback. And I know for years a lot of people wanted to say, look, there's a lot of things that Jimmy does great. He's good numbers. He's the reason they win. No, he was holding them back. And we tried to tell you, and this is the evidence of that right now. Like, is Brock Purdy Josh Allen? No. He's hitting the open receivers, and it's like, yeah, Jimmy wasn't. We tried to show you on the film. Ayuk's open. There he is again. But Jimmy doesn't see him or doesn't want to throw the pass. I mean, we've been talking about it, and people are like, you're a hater. No, I'm just describing what's going on. And now the Niners can't help but score 37 points. It's like, yes, that's what a good quarterback can do. I'm not even saying Brock's great. I don't know. He might be one. He might be. He's a good quarterback. And look at him. Look at this offense. So, yeah. Did I answer your question? I got worked out.
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Tommy Huxley says, here's a donation. Dallas secondary is worse than the Niners secondary. What do you think of that? Dallas secondary. Let's talk about that for a second. It's Donovan Wilson's a strong safety. He's their leading tackler. They have Jaron Kearse, who's got great size, but he's also hurt. He's hurt. So I think Malik Hooker probably goes at free safety, right?
Yep.
And then you got Trevon Diggs and Deron Bland, who are big corners. And you've got
I like Diggs, I like Diggs, although he's a terrible tackler. I like
gambler too. He can take some risks.
Yeah. So is Talanoa, right? So who would you rather have, Diggs or Ward? Charvarius Ward.
I'd rather have Charvarius Ward.
I'd rather have Diggs. I
mean, Diggs is younger.
Yeah.
And maybe a little healthier right now. But Charvarius
Ward's a way better tackler too. Ward
had a huge year too. I mean, I don't know about Ward. Are we looking at Ward regressing, or are we looking at Ward with maybe some groin issues?
I just don't know who Ward is. I know he had some good games, but he got torched by Jamar Chase last year in the AFC Championship game. Kansas City couldn't look at him after that. They're like, and now he just got kind of torched in the playoffs by DK. I'm like, I guess I'm questioning, what are you going to do at the biggest moment of the season? I know he won a Super Bowl, and he didn't, but that was Jimmy.
Right.
So I'm curious to see how the season ends up for Charvarius.
I know. They need,
I have more confidence in Diamador right now. Seriously. That guy's stepping up. He's stepping up. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what's your biggest concern? Let's get this one chat here. G-Code Travels Vlog POV. Who is your top 4 best Bay Area grown 49er players? What does that even mean?
Bay Area grown.
People
Niners from Bay Area. Brent Jones is one.
Jeremy Newberry.
Went
to Antioch, right?
Brent Jones was from Santa Clara, right? Santa Clara.
Brent Jones, Santa Clara, definitely.
Yeah.
Gogan, Sacred Heart. I got you.
Aaron Banks.
Jason Verrett was from Fairfield.
That's right. Right. Jeff Garcia's from Gilroy, which is close.
Jeff Garcia.
Yeah.
Who else? Who else was a Bay Area? I'm trying to think. There's got to be somebody. Oh, Derek LaVille went to Reardon.
How about that? Those are some good ones. We'll think of more.
Went to Sacred Heart as well. The receiver from Washington State that they drafted, and I forget his name, but I liked him in the draft.
McLeod Bethel Thompson went to
Sac State.
He went to Sac State. He's from San Francisco. He went to where O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson
went to Galileo.
That's where McLeod went to. OJ was on the Niners too.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was a terrible trade.
Hey, G-Code got him. OJ. Yep. That's right. That's right. Terrible trade.
Mikey 49ers says Dallas worse against wide receivers, bottom 5 in the league.
Wow. Maybe Diggs isn't good. Maybe I was wrong about Diggs.
Yeah.
All I know is Salah likes him coming out.
I don't know. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Calba. Calba threw in
Jason Hill. Correct.
Jason Hill?
Yeah, when I was in college. Ran fast, never really did much.
Niner Gang says Eric Crocker. But he didn't
Eric Crocker, that's true. Stockton.
But he played for the Jets, didn't he? I don't remember.
Yeah, but he's from Stockton.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which is it the Bay Area? It's close. Kind of.
Stockton?
It's kind of like halfway between the Bay Area and Sacramento.
Its own place, man.
Yeah, it's kind of its own place. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know.
All right. Biggest concern in this game from the Niner perspective. If the 49ers lose this game on Sunday, what are we talking about on Monday?
Yeah.
I mean,
one of two things. It's going to be one of two things.
To me, it's a more compelling than, way to go, Brock. We got to get into some of the juiciness. I mean,
I think it's going to be one of two things. It's either going to be Brock Purdy threw 3 picks and finally came back to earth. And boy, can you blame him? He's a rookie. Aw, shucks. What a great run. It had to end sometime. He's still got a bright future, that kind of thing. Which, frankly, I don't expect to happen. Or defense gets shredded like it did against Kansas City. And I guess we're not really expecting that either. I'm expecting the Niners to win this game, but like the signs are there that this defense is ripe to get shredded. Like they're not doing anything particularly well right now. What they're doing is forcing turnovers a lot. But like, is that a skill or is that luck or is it a combination? And is that going to go away if their four-man pass rush doesn't step up? Like it seems to me that the Niners defense is super vanilla. D'Amico isn't doing a whole lot. It's a lot just based how good is the Niners four-man pass rush that week. And if it's, like it was against the Raiders or the Seahawks, I don't know. It's freaking Dak. This is one of the best offenses in the league. And if the Niners defense isn't ready, they could get shredded. So that's what I'm worried about. I mean, I like their linebackers, but I question their D-line and their secondary right now.
I would love to know. I'd love to have a private conversation with D'Amico right now and say, D'Amico, how do you want to play? Because the Niners could dial up a ton of speed and just start blitzing Prescott. Prescott hasn't played well. He's turned the ball over a ton. Do you dial up a bunch of speed, give him defined looks, but speed him up and kind of make him play your tempo? Or do you rush 3, rush 4, drop 7, drop 8, make them be accurate, drive. The Niner plan, I think all year, Grant, has been play deep, let them complete passes underneath in the first half, rally up and make those tackles, let them make the mistake, or let them really what happens is let them make the penalty, they'll let them fall behind the sticks, and then maybe blitz that key third down when they do get a 3rd and 24. And get off the field. I mean, they haven't taken a lot of risks on defense. I'm eager to see how they defend this Cowboy team because Dallas he's got a good rhythm offensively going right now, and I think Pollard is a really scary back because he runs upright, but he's fast and he can make some big plays and he could burn them for some big runs. I think if he gets outside.
I just feel like what we've seen, like the Niners are all based on technique and effort. Like they have good technique. They do everything correctly and they all swarm to the ball. But, last few games, they've been sloppy with their technique, letting the quarterbacks get out of the pocket, and they haven't all been swarming. They even mentioned that, it's not really how our typical effort swarming to the ball. So, I guess it's the Cowboys, right? Big game. They're going to turn it on, right? I guess. Or they're gassed. Or Nick Bosa put everything he had into trying to beat, the all-time single-season record that he's gassed right now. I have no idea what's going on. But it feels there's the D'Amico factor where, if he puts in X hours a week in a defensive game plan, how many fewer could he put in this week because he had to prepare for 4 different interviews? I mean, I have all these questions. It's already a vanilla defense. Is it going to be extra vanilla this week and just hope that Nick Bosa saves the day? Because he probably will. But what if he doesn't?
I mean, Bosa is such a force that it's like it's easy to lean on him. G-Code says Donald Strickland went to Reardon. Okay. Tommy Huxley says, Larry, we need leverage McLeverage for this game. That's DJ Jones. What do you think about
that's another thing. He played last year. Yeah, I mean, he was a key factor last year in this game against Dallas, and now he's gone. And it's a rotation of guys. I'm not calling anyone in particular out, but again, the Seahawks went over 100 last week. The Raiders went over 130 a couple of weeks ago. Dallas is a run-first team that's going to be balanced and try to set up play action. Like, I guess we'll freaking see. And if they're going to be running mostly with Tony Pollard, then he's going to be not really necessarily running in the A and B gaps. He's going to be getting to the edges. And so they're going to be stressing Bosa and Omenihu and Ebukam and Willis. So let's see what they do.
I'm worried. I got to be honest. Gary Plummer's the last one, the live super chat from saying Gary Plummer, Mission San Jose. Yeah. I'm a little worried about this one because I just think that I love the potential of Javon Kinlaw, but I don't see him getting a lot done when I'm watching the tape. He is a monstrous man inside, and that alone, has to be accounted for. But as far as coming off blocks, really plugging the holes, he's not like DJ Jones. And then McGill and Givens are more gap shooting penetrators.
Yeah, they're small.
Yeah, so they
don't have a better option than Kinlaw. They need Kinlaw.
They need Kinlaw to play big.
They need Armstead to play big.
Yeah, they need Armstead and Kinlaw to really play big because, Zeke's going to run it more between the tackles, I think, and you're going to see Pollard more outside. But either way, if Dallas has success running the football, that's going to be that's going to bode well for the Niners secondary.
And the way that Jacobs and Walker had success running against the Niners was with patience between the tackles. And we asked Bosa after the game, like, how, what did you see from Walker? He's like, well, he was a lot more patient in this game than we'd remember him in the past, and that kind of threw us off. I feel like a lot of running backs just kind of slam into the Niners defense, where if you wait and let those double teams sort of work, you can push around the Niners defense to an extent. Teams have been doing it. Raiders did it. So I don't know. I don't know if Tony Pollard's that kind of running back, but Zeke is. I mean, he's not going anywhere. He's slow as hell. He's got no choice to be patient. He's got to be patient. He could be running as fast as he could be still called patient. He's so slow. I'm sorry, Zeke, if you're watching. He's probably watching.
Dallas, by the way, signed a kicker today.
Oh! About time.
Tristan Vizcaino, who was a Niner, wasn't he?
It sounds right. I would play him. I don't see how you could play that other guy. I wouldn't trust him. How could you trust him? And if you actually did trust him and he missed a kick, how could you blame him? You have to blame yourself. It's like, oh, what was I expecting?
You know what scares me about this whole thing with the kicker is that I really think that the NFL is kind of behind the times in the way they think about scoring. And I think that the analytics people of the future in the NFL, let's say 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever, are going to argue that the extra point was not value and that teams should go for two much more than they do. And like in this game, what if this forces Dallas to go for it on fourth down 2 or 3 times and to, go for two instead of the PAT, and all of a sudden it nets them extra points. I mean,
or momentum or whatever, an underdog on the road needs to pull off something improbable. Yeah, it'd be interesting. It seems like a better option than letting Brett Maher keep trying. Hey, give it a 7th shot, Brett. You got this. We all believe in you.
Here's a question this is more of an informational question. We know that Daniel Brunskill shares time at right guard with Spencer Burford, the rookie out of University of Texas, San Antonio. I've watched every game this year. The one thing I can say about you is you've watched every game this year.
Yeah.
Can either of us figure out the rhyme or reason or rhythm of that shared time? I have no idea when we're going to see Burford. I have no idea when we're going to see Brendel. Sometimes it's Burford and Brendel, and then out of nowhere, here's Burford again. And I asked Burford about it. I've asked Brendel about it. They don't seem like they shed any light on it. They don't seem like they have any knowledge of when they're going in or going out. I've never seen. Usually, I don't understand. CFO, as they call him, Chris Forster. I'll defer to him because it's working, and Spencer loves it, and Brunskill seems to not mind it. Are they literally platooning at right guard? Is it?
I'm sure. Yes, and I'm sure there is a reason for it because Kyle's very thoughtful and Forster's very thoughtful. They're very strategic. And the thing that I love about Forster is that he answers your questions. He just goes. So this is a great question for Chris Forster. I'll ask him. He was today. I'll ask him next week. He'll answer this question. He'll start off by being like, and then he'll just keep going for 2 minutes. And by the end, it'll be like, wow, I get it. Thank you. Thank you very much. No, he'll totally answer this question. I love Chris Forster. I love coaches like him. To me, one thing that I wish D'Amico would work on is D'Amico's a little defensive when you ask him questions. He gives you this look like, what are you asking me? It's like, nothing, man, just football stuff. When you ask Chris Forster or Robert Saleh, they have this like, man, I can answer anything what do you want? I got you. I love coaches like that. Because what is there to hide? It's freaking football. What is there to hide?
And they know so much more anyway. And there's a million things that they can say. So
So Chris Forster, he's like, the words are pouring. He's almost talking in fast forward because there's so much he can say. I love that kind of coach, man. You learn from him in the freaking press conference room. I could learn from D'Amico too, but he's not exactly giving seminars.
I wonder if D'Amico, his candidacy for head coach is truly on the line this week.
I would think so. Because it's not like he's put his best foot forward.
Offense, he might have his pick of jobs. If the Niners get boat raced and they can't stop the run or the pass, he might just.
It doesn't work it doesn't work that way. Because I think that's what Saleh was thinking in 2019 when he beat Minnesota. Remember, the Niners played Minnesota round 1, against Stefanski, straight up, And he destroyed Stefanski. Next day, Stefanski got hired by the Browns because Stefanski was available and Saleh was not. That's kind of how it works. So in a way, if D'Amico wins and does well, Dan Quinn could get his job because Dan Quinn's available. NFL's a really, really, really weird thing, and they should make it. They should forbid teams from hiring coaches until the Super Bowl has started. But only playoff teams would vote for that, and all the bad teams would vote against it. So it'll never happen, but it would make the league a better place. Quality control.
Which good idea? Which Dallas offensive weapon, do you fear the most in this game?
Tony Pollard. Pollard. Because he was not a big factor in the playoff game last year. It was more Zeke's show, and the Niners showed that they did a good job against CD in that game. Like, CD's a good player, but he's like Brandon Ayuk to me. Excellent, but probably not going to take over the game. Tony Pollard is explosive. Tony Pollard could score a 90-yard touchdown. Like, he is the X factor on that team, and the Niners haven't faced him in this way. And they have the athletes to handle him. Dre Greenlaw is perfect for a guy like Tony Pollard. But at the same time, I don't know what's up with Dre Greenlaw right now. So he had a back injury. They don't talk about it anymore. He was down for a while in this last game, came back. You're telling me his back's 100%? I don't think so. And so what impact is that having on him? Like, is he at 80%, 70%? They won't say. None of our business, right? But I think that's an under-the-radar factor right now.
Yeah, Greenlaw. I mean, I have it on my list of things to do tomorrow is to roll
Dre.
by Dre's locker and be like,
good?
How you feeling? How you feeling, big man?
Ask him.
Yeah, just ask him because he's the kind of guy who'll tell you. He'll tell you.
Dude, I think he's playing through something pretty painful. Is my guess.
Yeah,
he was down for quite a while in that game.
I
popped up, tough guy.
Today, and if he can't go, I'd rather go with Aziz at full tilt than Greenlaw at anything less than 75%. So that's going to be.
If Greenlaw can't play, that's a huge factor in this game. Because again, Tony Pollard, that's the guy. If you shut down Tony Pollard and make the Dallas Cowboys one-dimensional, Dak freaks out. But if he has a run game and play action, that's what made him good when he was young. He's not that guy who just drops back and dices you up like Patrick Mahomes. No. But if he has a run game and play action, he's damn freaking good.
Yeah,
he is.
Absolutely. Worst Jen says, keep up the content, Larry and Grant. All right, there you go.
I bet you we will.
Something tells me we're not done. When you're talking about the 49ers and D'Amico, what do you think he does? Do you think he blitzes, or do you think he tries to send just 4? Because Grant, they have been able to wreak havoc at times with just these really intricate, well-timed out games, and they're really only sending 4. But then in the second half of the year, I noticed in some key defensive downs, D'Amico's sending the house, sometimes 6, sometimes he'll just sell out. I'm worried a little bit about this too, because I've seen early in the year Talanoa get home, late in the year Talanoa's not getting home. And that's a concern. I'd rather him be in coverage.
You know why?
Coverage.
You know why he's not getting home?
As a blitzer.
Because people have seen it. That like with pressures, you put it on film, people are going to practice it. Hey, these are the pressures that they've run. You got to keep bringing out new ones. And one of the things I feel with the last month with D'Amico and his defense is the creativity is not there. The way D'Amico has creativity, and he's shown it in the past, but the last month it just feels like, oh, there's the Talanoa blitz. Yep, seen that. Okay, here's the double A gap. They do that sometimes. Yeah. Oh, the 3x1 where they do that. Yep, seen that too. Like, come on, man, you gotta have something new for the playoffs, and he's had it in the past, but right now everything feels really stale that he's calling. Like remember in the past when Bosa was getting a lot of attention, D'Amico would have him stand up and sort of like be the A gap blitzer, like he's standing prowling around, so you don't know where he's gonna go. How do you double? Where's that? I love that. That was a great adjustment that D'Amico came up with. Haven't seen it in a long time. I really feel like this whole interview process has kind of sapped him of his. You got to be 100% focused on this to be your best, I think.
Well, so, and take advantage of the fact that last week they had Jason Peters at left tackle. This week it's going to be Tyler Smith. Last week Connor McGovern was on the bench. This week Connor McGovern's at left guard, and they've had some injuries on that line, and it's not the most. They haven't logged a ton of time together. I would play all kinds of games up front and try to throw as much confusion as possible.
Just do something new. Tell me you have something new. Something unexpected, because Salah had really clever pressures, and whenever he needed something, his ace up his sleeve was blitzing K1. Remember the K1 blitz, and it didn't always like result in a sack, but it would create havoc. And where is that? Where's the ace up your sleeve, D'Amico? Because he has to do so little schematically. He's great at getting his guys to play with effort and good technique, but schematically, he doesn't do much of anything. Now's a great time to do, because he didn't have to. They're not built. You got this 4-man pass rush. You might have to now. You might need to.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's any question. The other question is, do you travel Charvarius with CeeDee Lamb, or do you?
That didn't work out so well last week, right? I mean, what's his confidence level at right now? What's Diamador's confidence level at right now? How different are they really? And are the Cowboys going to be scared by Charvarius right now? I don't know. What would you do? I'm a little nervous about it.
I mean, I would make a decision going into the game and try to stick with it. So if my evaluation was that, Charvarius should be on CD, then I would put Charvarius on CD and let him travel.
Yeah.
It seems like the one thing that I've noticed watching, 3 Dallas films the last day was that Dallas receivers, when his receivers don't gain separation, he throws the ball up and he just puts it high. And then Gallup jumps up and gets it. CeeDee Lamb jumps up and gets it. Dalton Schultz is like 6'6". He reaches up. He doesn't seem like he throws them low and they're diving into the ground. He throws them high and they jump. So I think the Niner DBs are going to have to get ready to contend, not just with the ball down the field, but the ball in the air. And you're going to have to contend with the catch point. You're going to have to fight with these guys at the catch point, and you can't just be there. It's not going to be enough to just be there. You're going to have to go up in a crowd skillfully and come down with it.
And I think that's what really Diamador Lenore isn't really built to do. He's playing great right now, at least recently. But he's 5'10". He doesn't have length. He's going to get mossed at the catch point by the biggest, best receivers in the league. He's just not built to really compete there, although he's competing in every other way. Charvarius Ward is 6'1" with length. He's the one that's supposed to be able to knock those passes away. So if you want to take shots and make them count, they're going at Diamador. He already knows you better give him some safety help.
All right, here's the other question. This is a Kyle question. Dallas has got a lot of pass rush, right? Durant, Armstrong, DeMarcus Lawrence, obviously Parsons, Osa, the kid from UCLA can rush. Basically everybody on their line outside of Jonathan Hankins can come flying at the quarterback. Even Anthony Barr on a blitz. They got a deep group. If you're Shanahan, I mean, do you try to keep Kittle into block, knowing that this is Shanahan himself said this is one of the best defensive lines we've gone up against. So does Kittle become a blocker, an essential blocker in this thing? Or the one thing it seems like Brock is really comfortable with is almost like Tom Brady in his early days with the Patriots, the empty set, 5 in the pattern, short drop, be accurate, and just be in rhythm.
That scares me.
It's like,
empty?
You do that?
Scares me. No.
I
don't want to go empty. Don't declare that you're throwing. I think you want to keep a little bit of run past mystery, I'm thinking. But I don't think the option is hunker down, bring in extra blockers, go max protect, get the ball down the field. I don't think you really want to do that. I think you just do what you did to the Rams a million times. The same way you beat the Rams every time. It's just quick throws. Make them prove that they can stop the run game in the quick game. Why would you do anything else against this pass rush? Because they might not be able to stop the array of runs and freaking checkdowns and swing passes that you have in your offense. If they can, then it's a game. If they can't, it's a freaking blowout. So what I would do is a lot of jet sweeps, pop passes, screens, slants, all that quick game stuff. Make Dallas show that they can tackle. I don't know if they can. We'll see if they can. That's the game. Otherwise, it's a very tough matchup for the offensive line and for Brock.
All right, one of the last ones I want to throw your way. The Niners get in the red zone, whether it be in this game or going forward in the playoffs. Who's the number one weapon? I mean, they have a lot of weapons. They got a lot of things they can do. Who do you want to touch the ball? Or is it matchup related for you? Is it scheme related, or I should say, excuse me, formation related? What are you trying to get done in the red zone? Why don't we start with that? Because, here's the thing. Many of us will question this on Monday if it doesn't work. And so I always like to be on record and say, hey, what do we want them to try to get done in the red zone? And then if they do it, great. If they do something different and it works, great. But if they do something different and it fails, at least you could say, hey, you know what? We're on record as saying, I think they ought to get the ball in this guy's hand in the red zone.
Well, there's so many things that they do well in the red zone. It's like, but let's be systematic about it. You want to have a lot of plays where George Kittle is the primary receiver. That's something Kyle Shanahan can control.
Right.
Call plays for George. Also, call plays for Ayuk. Ayuk is just as deadly in the red zone as George Kittle. Not as big, but very long arms and deadly route runner. Also, Juwan Jennings is you can't go wrong calling plays for him in the red zone. Debo, I wouldn't call passes for him, but that sweep from about 15 yards out is about a touchdown every other time with him. And then there's McCaffrey, who you can give him the ball in any number of ways. And then finally, the Niners' best weapon in the red zone is just Brock Purdy moving around. Brock Purdy extending the play. He's so good at that. So, yeah, it's from Kyle's perspective, make sure that you're calling enough plays for Kittle and Ayuk. But from there on out, Purdy will do the rest. He'll take it the rest of the way. And then, you got Jordan Mason, too, just in case you're at the 1-yard line.
I'll tell you what I like. I like Kittle because I think, his hands, his ability to take a hit in a crowd and hold on. I like Kittle. I like Elijah Mitchell more than McCaffrey as far as if it's short, any kind of short yardage running, any kind of pick and slide, find a hole, get up in it. Christian's a great player, great talent, great everything. I love him. Terrific addition, great safety valve, awesome receiver. But if they get inside the 5 and they're looking for the pick and slide, this is where I want Shanahan to use his instincts and say, yes, Christian's my number one guy, but in this particular skill set, Elijah is superior. And
it's true, but don't you feel there's a way that you can get Christian the ball, maybe like throwing him the ball, screens and stuff in the red zone? Like, he is a weapon there. He caught a touchdown last week, just as a simple check down.
Yeah.
Because Brock was moving. So did Elijah.
It was an amazing play by Brock, I thought.
It was.
I mean, it was 2nd and goal from the 3. Purdy stepped up into the pocket, took his drop, looked left, scanned the field, saw nothing. Then felt Nwosu and Irvin bearing down on him. They both had beaten the tackles and were headed towards the quarterback. He quickly, decisively took 2 steps up in the pocket without even really planting. He flips it to McCaffrey, who just a perfect dime, who was uncovered and just trotted into the end zone.
That's why I feel like people who are really watching the 49ers realize that he's a special player. It's not like Chris Sims was saying, good story, and really Kyle's doing everything for him, but Mac Jones is better. Like, what? Mac Jones couldn't have made any of those touchdown plays that Brock Purdy made. And if you really watched, you'd know it. So I feel like a lot of people really aren't watching like they should be.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Dan Orlovsky literally took the time to rank all the playoff quarterbacks and ranked him 13th in front of only Skylar Thompson, and ranked him behind Lamar, who's hurt, ranked him behind Geno, who's had a terrible 6 weeks by comparison. Ranked him below everybody, basically. Brady, who's had this terrible...
And basically was a cop-out. Like, he hasn't played that much. I'm not even going to evaluate him 13th. Yeah. Like, thanks. Maybe that's why everyone's losing to Brock Purdy, because they're not really evaluating him. Hey, did you hear one thing that was really interesting? I asked
you cover Chris football, dude, for a living. You know what I mean? Maybe, I don't know it.
One last thing before we go. What was interesting about Chris Forrester, I asked him what makes Dan Quinn like a formidable opponent. Yeah. And he starts by saying nothing. Then he goes into, he knows that when Kyle Shanahan knows what you're doing, he's tough. He has a great plan. So I guess this was Pete Carroll last week, similar coaches. I guess they just decided to use their nose tackle in a different technique, in a different way than they did in the previous 2 games, knowing that the Niners would prepare for the old way and that they would have to adjust on the fly, which they did. But that's the kind of stuff that Dan Quinn knows Kyle. Pete knows Kyle. They know these little tricks to get Kyle to have to work a little harder. So maybe that's why Kyle hasn't scored a ton of points on Dan Quinn yet.
Well, hopefully Kyle will have the upper hand on Dan Quinn.
Maybe.
Last two super chats. Mikey Niner, Ayuk slant or any wideout equals 6 points. I will say this, the way that Brock throws the slant and the timing and the touch and the accuracy and the way Ayuk fearlessly catches it and will take a big hit, I would say if it came down to like a Ravens situation, Grant, where it's like 4th and goal, season on the line, whatever, I'm going slant from Purdy to Ayuk.
I like it.
I like it. Very confident.
Especially like if it's one-on. I feel like what happens is he's out wide and you got Kittle in the slot and Kittle's getting doubled. And if you watch the film, a lot of times it's Ayuk one-on-one on the outside and he's winning. So if you can make that throw, do it. Like remember a few weeks ago, I think it might have been, I forget where it was, but Purdy forced a pass, it was in Seattle, to Kittle at the goal line, almost got picked off. You watch the All-22, Ayuk's on the right side one-on-one, and that's where he should have went. Purdy even said it afterwards. So Ayuk's always a good option. Always open.
Jordan Matthews, does Brock finally get his flowers if he outplays Dak? Seems like the media just credits Kyle and the system. I don't know if he's going to get his flowers at all. Calvin and Hobbs makes a donation. Keep up the good work. Go Niners. Larry Radnich goes, the defense is due. I think next week we're all talking about a spectacular, dominant performance from Fred Warner and company, 28-13 Niners. Last question, Grant. What will the final score be in your estimation?
27-23 Niners.
27-23. So you're kind of you're going over. I think it's 46. So you like
I'm going over. I think these are two really good offenses. I know Dallas has a good defense, but I don't know if they're equipped to stop what's coming. And I don't know if anyone is. And the Niners defense, I mean, I know they're struggling right now, but I think they can keep Dallas to 23.
Good stuff, man. Hey, thanks for stopping by. I'm going to pay the bills right now with a couple sponsors, a couple ads. I'll let you go, but awesome stuff as usual. Thanks. We'll see you. Maybe we'll see you tomorrow. You can be down there? No, you're not a Friday guy.
I usually give myself Friday off. Nah, I don't think I'm going to go there, but I'll see you Sunday.
See you Sunday. Right. Later, man. The great Grant Cohn stopping by on the Krueg Show. All right, let's do this. Let's pay the bills. Let's throw a little love to our sponsors, and then we will answer some of your questions in the chat before we bolt for the door to watch maybe the end of the Warrior-Celtic game. And we'll go live later on tonight on the Krueg Show with Dan and Ryan. We'll talk a little bit about the Warrior game, talk a little bit about the Niners and the Cowboys, and play our interviews from Santa Clara from earlier today. It's all straight ahead on the Krueg Show. But first, this.
Larry Krueger here for Telmetrics. Thanks to Casey Bateman and the good people at Telmetrics. If you're an occupational therapist, if you're an orthopedic surgeon, a chiropractor, a physical therapist of any kind, Telmetrics is designed for you to use in your practice and will greatly benefit your patients. Telmetrics uses computer vision and artificial intelligence and provides a platform for outpatient rehab therapy services, both in the clinical and the telehealth environments. So using Telmetrics can improve your patient's experience and much more. So for all your sports injury needs, or if you're a physical rehabilitation specialist of any kind, make sure you use telmetrics.co, Telmetrix.co. And thanks to Casey Bateman and all the good people at Telmetrics for being a proud sponsor of the Krueg. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Dan Coach Emilio. Dan is a buddy, and he is a phenomenal retirement planning specialist. And you can contact him today at securemoney.com or at his number 925-628-9966. There's a lot of uncertainty in our world right now, and you want to make sure that your money is secure. That is the key. Danny's got 25 years of experience, born and raised right here in the Bay Area, and he can help you get an immediate 10% premium bonus on your principal retirement account. So give him a call, 925-628-9966. He'll make an appointment with you, and you can sit down. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of a deal. He'll consult with you and come up with a strategy to get you going to where you want to be. Once again, 925-628-9966, securemoney.com on the web. And thanks to Tony Cassera and the good people at Cassera's Italian Menswear. They are housing the Krueg Show t-shirts, and they're a proud sponsor of the show as well. The Krueg Show t-shirt, the Krueg Show podcast t-shirt is available there at their store in Dublin. Their address is 7372 San Ramon Road in Dublin, California. And go see Tony Cassera and get yourself a Krueg Show t-shirt and support the show. And special thanks to our sponsor, New York Style Italian Sausage. That's right, NewYorkStyleSausage.com is their website. Phenomenal product, whether it's the breakfast sausage, the Italian mild, the Italian spicy, the chorizo. You cannot go wrong with New York Style Italian Sausage. Once again, NewYorkStyleSausage.com, often imitated, never equaled. And they're a proud sponsor of the Krueg Show. Thanks to them as well.
There we go. Coming down the home stretch on the Krueg Show. Sorry, Grant's mic was a little hot. But it was a little too hot for some people, and I think I didn't notice that in the chat. I should have noticed that and gotten that down for you. By the way, I was talking, we were going to come on and talk a little Warriors Celtics. 121-118. Celtics beat the Warriors in Boston. Warriors' first trip to Boston since the finals, since they clinched the championship, and they fall under 500, 22-23. Golden State's 5-18 on the road. And if you really, tonight, the Warriors have had a hard time defending the three-point line. Tonight, that really wasn't the case. 31% for Boston, but 34-19 for Tatum. 34-19. And the Warriors got beat on the glass. Wait for this one. 63-47. 63-47. I mean, that is not good. Not good at all. Points in the paint. Golden State was minus 22. 52-30. That ain't good. So what can you say? Golden State gets badly beaten, points in the paint, badly beaten on the glass, and loses by 3 in Boston to the Celtics. One super chat, David Baker. Belated happy birthday to Grant. That's right. Oh my God, David Baker, thank you for the $50 donation. We appreciate that, and I'll tell Grant happy birthday. I'm on the 12th. He's on the 13th. How about that? We were talking about that the other day. As far as a couple last thoughts on this 49er game, I think that there's a couple interesting angles to me in this game. One is I think this is the game that Kyle Shanahan needs to play complementary football. He's got to play complementary football. What you do on offense will help Diamador Lenore. What you do on offense will help Tayshaun Gibson and Talanoa Hufanga. We know who Dallas's weapons are, right? I mean, they're going to Gallup, they're going to Schultz, CeeDee Lamb's their number one guy. So, by the way, if we didn't get these 2 super chats before, Larry Radnich, the defense is due. I think next week we're all talking about a spectacular, dominant performance from Fred Warner and company, 28-13 Niners. I thought we read that one. And also this one, Calvin and Hobbs. Keep up the good work. Go Niners. Go Niners. But what I was going to say on this one is the Niners need to play complementary football. And that means dominate the time of possession. The one thing when you look at Dallas and the numbers, they're not a time of possession football team. They typically score fast. So they're not used to possessing the ball for big amounts of time. The Niners also, Shanahan he's got a quick strike offense as well from time to time. And it seems like they, have not had these long drives for the most part. Well, just looking at Dallas against Tampa the other night, didn't they have like a 15-play drive and an 11-play drive, and they won the time of possession? So to me, winning the time of possession is very important, because the Niners' weakness, I think, in this game is the secondary giving up big pass plays, and the Niner, defensive front is going to determine who wins this game by how much pressure they can put on Prescott. And to me, they'll be able to put a lot more pressure on Prescott if they're on the field for a fewer number of downs come fourth quarter and they've got a lot left in the tank. The Niners are deep up front. They're talented up front. They play a lot of games up front. But any defense will wear down from a big physical Dallas offensive line if Dallas plays ball control. So if I were the Niners, I'd play fast. And if I was D'Amico, I'd be aggressive. And I'd be blitzing from the start and take your chances. Take your chances. Force Dallas to take shots down the field. Make them play fast. Don't allow them to possess the hell out of the football. Don't allow them to run Zeke and Pollard and hold the ball for, a good chunk of the game. Don't do that. Blitz them, stack the line, challenge them, make them challenge you down the field and see if your guys will stand up. I'd rather do that than lose because Dallas possesses the ball for 40 minutes. Now, Dallas's defensive line is deep and talented and can rush the passer. So maybe you go a run-heavy game plan. But the most important thing is you got to stay ahead of the chains. You cannot get to 3rd and 20, 2nd and 22. So penalties, playing a clean game penalty-wise is going to be absolutely pivotal. If you fall behind the sticks against Dallas's defensive front, they're going to pile up sacks. That's what they do. Dallas on the season has 54 sacks. I mean, think about the Niners. They have Nick Bosa. He's the defensive player of the year in football, and they have 10 fewer sacks than the Cowboys do. The Cowboys get after the quarterback. They sack the quarterback. So to me, if the Niners are running the ball and having success running it, Shanahan, stick with it. Do not get impatient. If you're having success, if you're struggling with it, stick with the run and then play and then make some, play action pass off of it. Let Purdy make some efficient throws, but I would be okay with a 55-45 run pass split. And I might be thrilled with a 60-40 run pass split. The one thing I didn't mention to Grant, but it's clear and it's for everybody to see. The 49ers have a clear preparation advantage in this matchup. They've had 2 extra days of preparation. You could argue that once Minnesota lost on Sunday, the 49ers were right onto their Cowboy prep. Why? Because they had already just played Tampa a couple weeks earlier. They had already prepped for that opponent. So they probably leaned their preparation on Dallas. So they didn't have a 1-day lead. They got probably a day and a half, maybe even a 2-day lead on preparation. Dallas also played that game in Tampa, is flying back to Dallas, and now has to fly to the West Coast, where the 49ers have been holed up in the Pacific time zone for much of the last 2 months. And that's the reality. So I think if there's one advantage, a clear advantage in the situation, it's that the 49ers schedule was very travel light, and they didn't leave the West Coast and have these East Coast jaunts in the second half of the year at all. So they're as rested and ready a team as you're going to find. I also think it's kind of interesting that if you ask the question, who's going to run the ball, who's going to stop the run? Well, Dallas has got some good runners, but the Niners have the number 2 run D. So, I mean, if you look at this on paper, you say, well, Dallas can run it, right? What's Dallas's rushing offense rated? They've got the 9th ranked rushing offense. They average 135 yards per game. The 49ers have the 2nd best rush defense in the NFL. The Niners give up 77 yards rushing per game. Number 2 in the NFL. So is Dallas going to have more success rushing at the Niners? Probably not. The Niners, on the other hand, run game is 8th. They average 138 yards per game on the ground. But Dallas's run D is the weakness of their D. And they give up well over 120 yards per game on the ground, and that's 22nd in the NFL. So I would say the 49ers are the team that's more likely to have success running it. If you said, is one team going to run the ball, stop the run over the other? I would say that team that's going to run the ball and stop the run is likely to be the 49ers. So then it really comes down to who's more likely to turn the ball over. And the stat that just is absolutely amazing to me, the 49ers this year when they are even on the turnover margin at the end of the game. Turnover margin means I turn it over twice, you turn it over twice, we're even. You turn it over 3 times, I turn it over twice, I'm +1. I turn it over 3 times, you turn it over twice, you're +1. I'm -1. The 49ers this year, when they were even on the turnover margin or in the plus category, were 14-0. They were 14-0. They were not beaten. When they were on the negative side of the turnover margin this year, 0-4, didn't win. So how important are turnovers? They mean everything. It's about taking care of the football. It's about being efficient, being smart, and taking care of the football. Who's going to run it better? I think it's going to be the Niners. Who's going to stop the run better? I think it's going to be the Niners. And then we get to the turnovers part. Well, fumbles, who knows? You just don't know. Elijah Mitchell never fumbles. I mean, it literally never fumbles. But guess what? Tony Pollard and Zeke Elliott, guess how many fumbles they combined for this year? None. That's right, 0. They don't fumble either. So the Cowboy backs are likely not going to cough it up. So if the turnovers are going to come, they're going to come because of interceptions. Who's more likely to throw interceptions? Dak Prescott, who's got like 10 in his last 7 or 8 games, or Brock Purdy, who's got 4 and 2 of them were tip balls? I would say Prescott. So I think that's advantage 49ers. I think the turnover margin should be advantage 49ers. I think the run game should be advantage 49ers. The key to me in this game is, can the 49er defensive backs play with poise with the ball in the air? Whether that's early in the game, late in the game, whether Dallas is doing that to establish the run later on, or whether they're doing that because they fell behind and they're now going up top because they got to catch up. Play the ball in the air with poise. Now, obviously, Charvarius had a really rough day against DK Metcalf. Maybe he bounces back. Diamador Lenore's his ball skills have been really good as the season's progressed, but he hasn't consistently played the ball well in the air. And then Gibson and Hufanga sometimes get caught leaning forward, and you can throw over their head and have a big play. How the Niners play the ball in the air and how much poise they show with the ball in the air, I think is going to probably determine who wins this game. But it's who's going to have success? Is Dallas going to have success passing the ball down the field on the 22nd best run pass D in pro football? Or are the Niners going to have success running at the 22nd best run defense in pro football? It's probably where the game gets decided. I like the 49ers to win the game, but because I think Brock Purdy is really playing efficient football, and I think it's going to continue. He's taking care of the football. They're running the ball. They got a great defense. But it's like, how do the Niners settle into this game? Does Shanahan come out throwing it? The one thing with Purdy, he's got the it factor. Now, what is the it factor? To me, it's touch, it's accuracy, it's timing, it's feel. But there's also another factor here, and that is the risk-reward factor. How much risk do you take? Are you captain check down, or are you throwing it into triple coverage? And thus far, I would say Purdy has struck the perfect balance between staying aggressive, keeping his eyes peeled down the field, and being smart with the football. And that kind of balance, that, walking that tightrope of be aggressive, take shots, don't be timid, exploit your mismatches, throw some 50-50 balls up to your top receivers, and then be smart with the football. Don't turn it over. Take care of the ball. These things, they're shades of gray, right? It's not as easy as just don't turn it over. Okay. But you gotta take chances down the field. If you say, where's Brock Purdy really playing at a high level? It's that right there. It's the balance between I'm taking shots, I'm being aggressive, I'm going for it, as opposed to I'm being smart, I'm taking care of the football, and I'm living to play another play on the negative play. He's not taking sacks. He's not, he's finding a way to escape outside the tackle box and throw that ball out of bounds and go to the next play. And it's something that if Garoppolo had learned earlier in his career, probably would be a whole lot better off for his trouble. G-Code Travels Vlog POV donates, says Purdy is turning into babyface assassin, Golden State Warriors Steph Curry and the Giants Buster Posey, changing the face of a franchise to become a leader. Purdy is a most win Super Bowl, a must win Super Bowl. I'm not really sure what G-Code Travels was getting at there, but I do see what you're saying, though, as far as Purdy, Posey, and Curry. They do all have that baby face, but they all are just insanely competitive. I mean, that's the thing when you're around Brock that really stands out to you is that this guy's he's insanely competitive. He's got it all in perspective. I asked him today, how have the last 6 or 7 weeks been like for you? And how have you been able to stay grounded? And he said, I'm a man of faith and my faith's important to me and it keeps me grounded. And I've got a loving family and I've got a life outside of football. And it humbles me or whatever. I forget exactly how he phrased it, but he was like, keeps me from, getting too up or too down and kind of evens him out. So very interesting guy. And the 49ers have to be consider themselves absolutely incredibly lucky that they stumbled on this guy. And once again, shout out to John Lynch. You know how many GMs would just say, yeah, I drafted that guy. Yeah, I did. Who drafted him? Who liked him? I did. I'm the GM. It's my draft record. He was in my draft. I drafted him. You know what I mean? And they would just kind of elbow everybody else out of the picture. John Lynch is like, yeah, the road scout's name is Slowick, and he told the whole story about how he found him and how they kind of, what they said about him, what they liked about him. I mean, he went into the whole detail. It was really, really good. Go to 957thegame.com and you can check out the interview that he did on the game where he talked about it. But just a really interesting draft choice for the Niners because they didn't even have a first round pick in this draft. And, they started the draft with Drake Jackson and look what it ended with. I mean, Brock Purdy and a whole slew of undrafted players that I think are going to make an impact going forward in the years ahead. 3 years from now, when you look back at the 2022 NFL draft and what the Niners got out of it before and after the draft, I think you're going to be amazed because I expect all these backup players. These guys, the Marcelino McCrary Ball, he's a baller. He's a player. He's going to be a player. The backup offensive lineman, Nick Zakel, he's a player. He's going to be a really good player. Danny Gray's a really good player. Quantrez Knight's a really good player. I mean, seriously, these guys can play. Jason Poe, Tay Martin, these guys are going to play in the NFL. I mean, they're going to play in the NFL and they're going to play a number of years in the NFL. So this draft, Kalia Davis, another guy, he's going to play it. He's going to play in the NFL. He's going to be a good interior pass rusher. So John Lynch and his staff did an amazing job in this 22 draft haul before and after the draft. And Purdy's just the tip of the iceberg. And people are probably not even going to notice that. Even if the Niners went to the Super Bowl this year, people probably would not notice that because so many of these guys are kind of developmental still. And they didn't make a huge impact outside of Spencer Burford, who started, and Brock Purdy, who's now starting. The Jordan Masons and TDP, Drake Jackson, Sammy Womack. These guys are all good players, and they're going to be here in the league for a long time, but nobody really knows it yet. And they clearly don't know any of those practice squad guys. So nobody's going to be talking about this epic draft from John Lynch, except for yours truly. But 3 years from now, come back, check back, and let's see what that draft looks like. It's going to be incredible looking back at it. And Purdy's obviously the key guy there. So we got this one from Niner Gang Wolfcast. Says, Krug, did you see Rand Carthon's reception at the Titans facility? I did not. But congratulations to Rand Carthon, whose father is Maurice Carthon, played for the New York Giants. And he's obviously been a good front office guy for the 49ers. And now he's running the show in Tennessee. And what does that mean as far as Trey Lance? I'll say this. If I'm Tennessee, I'd rather have Trey Lance than Malik Willis. I'd rather have Trey Lance than Ryan Tannehill. So if I'm the 49ers, I think if Brock Purdy wins another playoff game, it might be time to discuss what the Niners may do trade-wise in the offseason with Trey Lance. Now, if they bring Trey Lance back, he counts $9 million against the cap. If they trade Trey Lance, he turns into a $20 million cap hit. So I don't know if they're going to wind up trading him this year, but if I'm Trey, I want to play, man. I need to play. If I'm his agent, I'm thinking, hey, guys, Trey needs to play. I think everybody would agree. Trey Lance needs to play football. So if Brock Purdy's the starter and he's 23, maybe Trey comes to the Niners and says, I want to be elsewhere. I don't know. I'm not sure how that's going to go, but it would make all the sense in the world. I'll say this. If it was my kid, I wouldn't want to beg out of the situation. I'd want to sit there and say, hey, fight it out and see if you can get the job. And if not, then not. And we'll move on from there. But, man, if Brock Purdy goes on and leads the Niners to the Super Bowl, he's 23 years old. And I know, and it's not only about, well, what's best for the Niners. We know it's best for the Niners to have Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. Yeah, it's best for the Niners. But what's best for Trey? And what if Trey demands a trade? Do you trade him? Yeah, that's the debate. And I can imagine Tennessee would want him. I could imagine Detroit would want him. I could imagine that Indianapolis, who gave him a blue star designation in the draft coming out, that that they could want him. So, Trey Lance, I think, is really an attractive quarterback prospect still. And I know people are like, well, he kind of struggled and this, but the word's out. See, it's a small league and people talk and everybody knows. They know if you're a scumbag. They know if you're a great guy. They know if you work hard. They know if you're a slacker. And there's guys who get paid 6-figure salaries to know these things. And if they go and they research Trey, they're going to find out that he's incredibly athletic. He's incredibly diligent. He's incredibly hardworking. He wants it badly. And he wants to be a superstar NFL quarterback. Now, is he there yet? No. But that's his makeup as a person. That's why it's one of the main reasons the Niners liked him is he's got this incredible makeup. And he's incredibly athletic. And they went on traits. Now, they found a player in Purdy who is doing it. And it's not about like traits and development. He knows how to play the position he's playing at a really high level. So what do you do? What do you do? And I if I'm John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, I talk to Trey and Trey's family, and just say, because he's got a right to have a say in his future. You've invested a lot in the kid. He's been, come on, you've invested a lot in him. This is a unique situation. I think you can have a conversation with the family and just say, what do you guys want? You want to stick here in a great organization with one of the NFL's best play callers with a great cachet of weapons and the number one defense in the league, or and maybe lose out to Brock Purdy and have to play off the bench at the beginning of your playing career? Or do you want to be elsewhere in Tennessee as the anointed starter where the team's built around you, so on and so forth? So, and then whatever he says, I think I would do if I'm the Niners. If he says, hey, I want to be here, guess what? Great. You're young. Brock's young. Got 2 young quarterbacks. It's friendly on the cap. Work hard. He learns from you. You learn from him. You both learn from Greasy. Everybody learns from Shanahan. You enjoy this thing going forward and you play it as it comes. Great. Or he may say, you know what? Brock's the guy here. Come on. Let's be real. He's the guy. The fans love him. The team loves him. He's playing at a high level. He's the guy, and he's going to be the guy. And I just, all things being equal, love you, John. Love you, Kyle. Put me in Tennessee. Send me to Nashville. Trade me to Minnesota. Maybe he'll replace Kirk Cousins. I don't know. I guarantee you this, though. There's going to be a bunch of teams interested in Trey Lance. And if people think, oh, my God, they're not going to – Trey Lance, showed this year that he couldn't play. No, he didn't. He showed that he still needs development. And I don't think you're going to get 3 number ones. But if you're talking about a mid-first or a late first, I do think there'll be multiple teams that will be willing to give you a mid to late first round draft choice for Trey Lance. This is interesting. SLLL says Trey Lance equals James Wiseman. Yeah, but here's the one difference. Trey Lance, as sure as I'm sitting here, I know he loves to play and lives to play. And that's what he is. He's nothing else. He is this. He's a football player. He wants to be a quarterback. He is all in on being a quarterback. I get the feeling sometimes with James Wiseman that he has, maybe eclectic interests, and that he, maybe the fire doesn't burn for him to be this great player, that he's gifted, but does he really have that burning desire to be this awesome center? If he does, maybe he does. I haven't seen it. Jay Tan says, shout out to Steve Slowick, the scout who was in love with Brock Purdy. Yeah, exactly. You know what? Forget shout out. How about just a little clapping for Steve Slowick? Because that guy has our respect. And let's be honest, if the 49ers didn't have Brock Purdy, this season would be down the tubes and we'd be talking about injuries and next year. Instead, they do have Brock Purdy, and they're 2 wins away from the Super Bowl and 3 wins away from their 6th Lombardi. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see where this whole thing goes. I will say this too. There's something about Dallas that is really enjoyable to beat Dallas. You know what I mean? I think the idea of beating Dallas is always there's something that makes that a little bit more exciting this weekend, just because of Jimmy Johnson, Jerry Jones, the whole rivalry. And everybody's got their own view on the rivalry. To me, I will still put Niners Cowboys over Niners Seahawks, over Niners Rams. I just think that what the Niners and the Cowboys did in the 80s and 90s, I don't know. To me, that's the best. That's the number one rivalry as far as I'm concerned. It's the Dallas Cowboys. And it will be extra sweet to beat Dallas. One last thing on the injury front, there were 2 49ers on the injury list of note, Samson Ebukam and Jawan Jennings. Jennings is just trying to get, I think it's his foot, trying to get it right. Ebukam was in the locker room today. They're both, question marks for Sunday. And they're both really important. Jawan Jennings, I think, is a vital third receiver for the 49ers. He's a big target. He's a chain mover. He's a dependable guy. He's a money receiver. And Ebukam might be their most underrated defensive lineman. He just has a crazy motor. He's freaky strong, very first step fast, has played with a number of painful injuries all year. So if Ebukam can't get out there, they're fortified. They got Charles Omenihu. They got Jordan Willis. They got Drake Jackson, who was inactive last week, who could easily step in. They got Kerry Hyder. They got other guys. It's not like they're going to be naked without Samson Ebukam. But man, if they could have Ebukam in there, he is a difference-making player of the highest order. I mean, he is fast. He's athletic. Really good football player. All right, that's going to do it for this live stream. Thanks to Grant. Thanks to all of you. Until next time. Oh, by the way, if you're one of the over 300 people in the chat right now, we are building the channel, and we're at, I think, over 11,000 now. We just got to 10,000 the other day. Now last count was 11,381. 11,381. So if you're in the chat and you're one of the 309 people in here, and maybe you're a subscriber to Grant's channel and you haven't subscribed yet to the Krueg Show, if you could, I would appreciate it. It would be awesome. We produce regular content, and we're going to, later on tonight, we'll have a live stream, talk a little Warriors, talk a little Niners. We'll have Dan and Rye joining us, and we'll play some Niner interviews from today. It's all coming up, but thanks to everybody for joining us today on the live stream. And we'll see you next time on the Krueg Show.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get